this business continuity planning piece seems to be a pretty big oversight, especially considering how unpredictable our environment has been becoming, whether we talk about that regulatory environment from previous or the climate risk environment. And we have massive losses now in locations that we maybe previously didn't.
Welcome to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Sandy Laycox, Editor-in-Chief of Leader's Edge. In this episode, sponsored by Nationwide, I talk with Kristina Talkowski, Head of Commercial Lines Middle Market Business for Nationwide. In a recent survey of small and medium-sized businesses, Nationwide collected business owners' and decision-makers' perspectives on a range of risk management issues. Kristina, who goes by KT, shares multiple insights from the survey and offers her perspective on what they found. First up, she shares the area of risk respondents are focused on and then how prepared they feel to address them.
Yeah, the survey was very telling, and I think there's certain things in there that aren't going to be a surprise to anybody, but specific to the 400 middle market businesses that responded, what we saw as the big five issues that were consistent across them, while they are very diverse businesses and they face diverse risks, the five big themes were middle market clients are really thinking about economic and financial instability. They're thinking about supply chain and supply chain disruption. Regulatory compliance issues are front of mind for them and how they're adapting to that. The labor challenges that persist, labor shortages, skill levels, labor challenges in general showed up across all of our middle market clients. And then cyber threats, but I'm also going to blend in there, technology disruptions. So we call everything cyber threats, but not everything really is that traditional cyber threat that we think of in terms of ransomware. It can also be supply, your technology supplier maybe not being as reliable as you need them to be, or some sort of disruption in that. So we saw a lot of really great insights in that. Some of the other themes we saw is a concern over dealing with climate risk. How do they take a more active role in managing climate risk versus just transferring that climate risk through insurance? And then the issues with our pervasive legal system abuse and third-party litigation funding. Increasing that amount of litigation really leads to increased costs that they're seeing are jeopardizing their ability to focus and meet their margin requirements or what they were hoping to make from a margin perspective as businesses. So, we continue to say it's an ever-evolving climate or ever-evolving risk environment. And while these are the big themes, I think it's how these are evolving and which ones are making it to the top of concern for our middle market clients each year, that this really helped us understand where to focus.
And it seems like from what you're saying that these risks are really big global risks, not necessarily specific to smaller businesses. These are large scale risks that they're facing just the same as any sort of large global business would.
Absolutely. I think one of the things we saw is the employer's preparedness and how they're feeling about preparedness as well to deal with this. That the reality is, I think some things revealed themselves in COVID, right? When you think about the supply chain disruption, but how much progress have they made? And how are they thinking about it today differently than maybe they thought about it previous to that environment, when we realized like how interdependent a lot of the supply chains were. But I think it's hitting everybody from a business environment, and it is evolving over time. We did see that about half of the businesses that responded from a middle market perspective don't feel as prepared as they like, even though they have been implementing risk management strategies. So I think that was one of the things that creates an opportunity for us as an industry and as professionals that manage risk to be thinking about, okay, if half of them don't feel as prepared, how do those conversations happen with these customers as we're out there? Do we make sure we don't assume they feel the same way about it as they did last year, when the environment that they're in and the risk environment that they're in is constantly changing?
We then discuss the gaps in preparedness for risk. KT shares where employers are effectively preparing and feeling prepared versus where there are opportunities for the industry to help improve their clients' risk profile.
Yeah, I think we're calling this the protection gap. We see a protection gap, and I think the industry sees that protection gap as well. Some of the things that are currently in place that we felt really optimistic about, most of the middle market business respondents indicated that they are prioritizing risk management and safety planning. Even though they don't necessarily recognize all the benefits or feel as confident, they are prioritizing it. So I think that does create this opportunity for us as insurance professionals and as risk management professionals to be engaged in those conversations. 8 out of the 10 that responded to our survey indicated that they do have a dedicated safety budget. So that safety element is definitely prevalent within middle market businesses. They're indicating about, on average, they spend about 6% of their budget on safety, their expense budget on safety, with things like construction companies spending 19% of their budget and manufacturing reporting that they spend about 13% of their budget on safety. So it feels like we have willing participants in this discussion. And I think some of that is the cost of risk is increasing. So then mitigating the risk, preventing the risk becomes a reasonable action to take and a business intelligent action to take. 9 out of 10 of our respondents also reported having formalized risk management policies in place. And that they review them and update them on a consistent basis. I will say, however, from our own internal processes of doing risk management evaluations for our customers, we don't necessarily agree that that's 9 out of 10. That really would meet typical criteria that we would say are at, I would say industry leading or best in class, or even sometimes at the minimum. So I think, again, this creates an opportunity for us as risk management professionals to help our customers understand where do they stand compared to their peers, where do they stand to how risk is evolving, and how do we help them. One of the big significant protection gaps that is self-identified by the group that we surveyed, we have about 21% of the businesses indicating that they do not have any form of business continuity planning. And that in this environment of what we're seeing from a climate risk change, the technology risk change, the regulatory, the supply risk change, that feels like we have a significant protection gap and a big opportunity to help customers through that and help them understand, what is a good business continuity plan? What steps can they take that would have the highest impact? And how do they update that and refresh that? I think what it does hit on for us overall, and this is something, we know in the middle market space very well, is that our business owners wear a lot of hats. They are not necessarily doing safety or risk management full time, and they may not have dedicated safety or risk management professionals. And that's really where we come in as a profession to provide that additional support, provide them with insights, provide them with information to help them do that evaluation and support them.
One of the biggest risks identified by survey respondents was regulatory risk and challenges with keeping compliant with new regulations, such as those around data privacy. KT explains the specifics of these results and the regulatory environment for businesses.
So this is one that, I think we end up talking a lot about because it feels a little bit out of people's control as well. So you're managing risk while you're also adapting to things that are occurring and changing and ever evolving in the marketplace or in the regulatory environment. So, the regulatory environment is constantly evolving. It poses huge challenges for the businesses, and it impacts what they're thinking about from an operational risk management perspective. We had about 3/4 of our mid-market owners say that regulatory changes has impacted what their risk management needs are and what specifically they wanted to focus on. 1 in 5 felt their business was unprepared to respond to new or changing regulations. They do their business planning, they do their budgeting, they're focused on their customers, and then new things come into play that they have to readjust everything for. And of the regulations they deal with, the one that the owners highlighted specifically that they find the hardest challenge or the biggest challenge in adapting to is the privacy regulations and the security requirements that are in place and have been increasing continuously as we become all more interconnected through technology. I will say that right now, what the business owners are telling us is that the technology providers that they use is really the biggest and most crucial support for them in that process. So any vendor they use, any software as a service they use, they're really looking for them to be the experts in what data privacy is required when utilizing that, and just making sure that the right protections are in place, the right updates are in place, and then they feel their responsibility is really to keep current with whatever their vendors are telling them. 76% of the owners that we surveyed indicated that that's their main priority of who they use to help them. 11% said that technology is absolutely critical to everything they do in their risk management activities. And so making sure that they've thought about that data privacy and risk management implication of using any technology is, a big piece of what they're focused on. So I think what we're really seeing is owners can see huge benefits from technology use, but they are recognizing AI, data privacy, all of these things increase their risk exposure, and the regulations that are in place expecting them to protect data and to have appropriate privacy measures in place is really going to be a continuing challenge, and one they're going to be leaning on professionals to help and support them through.
Is that an area where you see, and obviously a lot of these rules are just coming into play now, so you're not really seeing the effects of compliance yet, but as from the insurer perspective, are you all focused on that area of risk as well, and
Yeah.
ways to sort of help clients make sure that they do have a trusted vendor and they are
Mhm.
following all of the rules, and how to sort of ensure that's in place?
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where it's really meaningful for any business owner to make sure that they're working with carriers and brokers who understand their businesses, take the time to understand their businesses, and help them identify the gaps that they have in place. When you're looking at the ever evolving landscape of risk and the fact that it's so diverse, depending on the type of business that you're working with, what they're facing can be so different. And even like we just said, the technology and what the risk management practices need to be for technology risk or cyber risk is so different than the practices that need to be in place for employee safety. And so making sure that you have that specialization, that they can lean on us to stay up to date with current issues and specialize in different products and capabilities, so that we can really be those outsourced risk management support for our customers is really, really important in this particular time of constant evolution of risk. For us in particular, right, you really do, when we offer any product, insurance product, the first thing that comes to mind for us is protection.
Mhm.
So we consider ourselves a protection company. That's what we exist to do, is to protect our customers. So when we're looking at insurance products or even involving our insurance products, we look at how does the coverage provide protection, but then also how do our risk management professionals provide protection, whether that's checklists that we provide or assistance or reviews or contract reviews. We have a lot of different capabilities, and every single one of those varies by both product and the industry that it's specifically meant to serve. And other carriers as well provide that. So I would highly encourage the agent and broker community to know what your specific carriers you're working with specialize in, what they're uniquely good at, and make sure you're using full advantage of any of the services they have available to help the customer. And also, don't assume the customer feels the same way about something this year as they did last year.
Yeah.
What we are seeing is the survey results change over time. And when we get into specific industries, the answers are different. So we are very much in an environment where this is very unique for middle market size clients by the type of industry and also by the specific risk that they're looking at.
Yeah. Seems like it's just getting more and more specialized
Mm-hmm.
for
Because
each.
it's getting more complex.
Yeah.
It's getting
Yeah.
more complex, and the business environment and the expectation of business owners is going up.
Hmm.
And so it's getting more challenging. And you also have, in our country, a 50 state environment. So you might
Right.
have one state imposing a regulation that another state isn't, and having a partner in either your agent or broker or your carrier that you can talk to about, okay, is my best bet not to do business in that state, or is my best bet, is everybody else going that direction? And I might as well start adapting to it now because everybody's headed in that same direction for that regulation. And we see businesses grappling with that pretty continuously.
We then get into survey respondents' blind spots and where Nationwide sees risk that may not be as apparent to clients.
I think I'm going to hit back on something we already talked about, which is that business continuity planning.
Yes.
I think, to me, that is one of the biggest blind spots that we identified, because businesses might feel good that they have the right risk management practices in place, but are struggling to see that connection to having business continuity really be a critical element of how they can meet their KPIs, how they can protect, making their actual business, profit targets or margin targets that they're looking for, continue to fulfill the mission if they're a non-for-profit. So I think, this business continuity planning piece seems to be a pretty big oversight, especially considering how unpredictable our environment has been becoming, whether we talk about that regulatory environment from previous or the climate risk environment. And we have massive claims or losses now in locations that we maybe previously didn't. And so I think that is one that we saw as a pretty strong disconnect. The other one is this idea that I think the owners have, that you have to have a lot of finances, or you have to commit a big budget to get some of these risk management and safety practices in place. We heard that they think it has to be complex or it has to be costly in order to do these things, and those are barriers to them moving forward. When in reality, from our perspective, sometimes, it's really about a consultation with your agent or broker, or using the resources that your carrier has. It can also really be an involvement where, we have a consultative discussion about the business, not about the insurance, but about the business. So we can maybe help uncover some quick hits or opportunities alongside the businesses that we insure that can support their resiliency. The unfortunate thing is there's really no one size fits all, we don't have anything that we can just ship out to everybody. And it's like the perfect, a bit like, I think of like motor vehicle safety type programs, those kind of work for every industry. When it comes to business continuity planning, it really does require that you do a good amount of consultation. And so there isn't a one size fits all for that. And so really working with, again, your broker or your agent or carrier that has a degree of understanding of your industry can be really, really helpful for the customers.
Finally, we discuss what Nationwide is focused on moving forward as they serve middle market commercial lines clients.
Our focus as Nationwide Middle Market is really to understand that the risk environment is changing very rapidly and to not sit still. For us to be continuing to seek insights from every interaction we have with customers, to use those insights to shape those protection solutions, whether those protection solutions are coverages or those protection solutions are loss prevention, risk mitigation, policy reviews, continuity reviews. We're really looking to specialize by industry to make sure that whatever those businesses say are the things that are getting in the way of them potentially meeting their goals are the things we're thinking about beyond just insurance. But really, the more we can be protecting those customers and helping them protect their own businesses from all these different risks that are evolving around us, the better and more resilient we're making the business community that we participate in as well. So as these continue to increase in complexity, I absolutely believe that specialization will become more and more important. Both the specialization that the customers are looking for in their brokers to be their brokers and agents, independent agents to be their outsourced risk managers, but also from their carriers. And we're really looking to be focused on how do we provide those solutions. We're a customer-focused organization, a protection-focused organization. So we know the solutions come from where the customer's needs are. And we're really looking to have that protection mindset as we move forward in a business to be a resource to both the brokers and agents as well as the end customer community.
That was Kristina Talkowski, head of Commercial Lines Middle Market for Nationwide. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. For more Leaders Edge podcasts, go to leadersedge.com or subscribe in your favorite podcast channel.